Alright guys, Scump here, and I hope you're doing well and enjoying all day so far. As OpTic's torrid run of form continues, Scump was giving his perspective on the watch party last night about some of the talk about practice over the last few days. Shotzzy has said that the practice behind the scenes for the OpTic camp has actually been better in recent times, but of course that has not translated at all into any of their recent CDL match results. Scump clearly is fed up with the whole situation and says, let's stop talking about practice, let's start delivering on the server, otherwise things are going to go from bad to even worse. But can it get much worse? Very much into your thoughts in the comments. Hit the like button if you enjoy. Subscribe if you're new. As always, plenty to get into today. OpTic do not play today, but they do play tomorrow in what is a crucial game to cap off what may well be, and frankly it may already have been, the worst stage ever in the history of the CDL. First of all, Black Ops 6 is back at the World Cup this year. We've known this for some time, but we didn't know the date until this point. So again, I'm a little bit frustrated that the season is going to end even earlier than before. And maybe it's not the end of the world, but I think the number one complaint that we've had as fans over the last few seasons has been the season isn't long enough. It starts too late and it finishes too early. Last year wasn't great on that end, but the existence of the World Cup last year meant that in Riyadh, I think it was the middle of August, I'm pretty sure it was like 15th of August, because I think it was maybe the 7th week of the World Cup was when Call of Duty was last year. This year, Champs is earlier. It's going to be, I think, the end of June rather than middle of July like it was last year. And then the World Cup is going to be earlier as well. Now, I guess this makes sense, to be fair, because if Champs is the end of June, then you probably don't want it to be like, 8 weeks until the World Cup. You want it to be relatively shortly afterwards, roughly a month after, which is how it was before. So, this is probably fine, but still, I wish that the CDL schedule was a bit different, and I wish there was, like, a few more minors as well. I don't want to, oh my god, people are going to clip me up again. But, you know what I'm saying, right? We had Minor 1, Minor 2 during the first couple of stages, and Major 3, Major 4's cycles will not have a minor tournament included, and I wish that they did because I enjoyed them and it spread out the season a bit more and it was kind of more tournament style play. Because they don't, it means that the majors are slightly earlier. To be fair, I think the reason why they did them in the first place was because they couldn't quite get the timings that they wanted. But anyway, these are the dates. It's going to be similar to last year. Notably enough, now this isn't relevant immediately, but the 4 Challengers teams that qualify, one of them will qualify if they win the Major 4 Challengers event. So alongside Major 4, which is going to be in Dallas again at the DreamHack event, the Challengers event that they run there, if you win that, you qualify for EWC automatically. So that's a particularly big deal. And you guys were saying yesterday, because we saw some of the details on the DreamHack event, they were talking about 2 stages. And in my head, I was like, oh, 2 stages of the tournament. But as you guys were probably rightly saying in the comments, what about it means actually 2 stages, as in there is a main stage and like a B stage, which would be great. I mean, it'd be like how COD was back in the day. We'll see if that happens. This is pretty crazy. Some interesting numbers here on HyDra. And I will say some of the guys that he has a negative record against here, that may well change in the near future because, well, his current record is 123 to 73. These are players that he has a losing record against, and not many, but there is, I guess, a handful of players here, one of which is Pred. Pretty much all the OpTic guys are here, right? Pred is here, Kenny is here, Shotzzy is here, Dashy is here as well, although in recent series that may be changing around somewhat. But yeah, some interesting names on this list. Of course, sample size is relevant. Simp, aBeZy and Cellium are right here. Drazah is pretty much here as well. Trey Zero's here, 2 and 3. You got Hixie, 2 and 4, Shorty, 1 and 2. Scrappy has a negative one, but very marginally so. And even then you've got Zed and Dave Paddy. Obviously, like the sat on Dave Paddy that made him famous in some respects is that I think, yeah, this is true, isn't it? He's undefeated against Scump on LAN. I think that's true. Maybe undefeated against Scump full stop. You guys correct me in the comment section below. Now, speaking of OpTic, Hex did put out an episode of his vlog yesterday, and it was a great watch. And a couple of interesting things to note in here. There's more I might discuss on this in future, as you guys were mentioning in the comments of it. The one thing I wanted to home in on, though, really, initially, was this picture, because they talked about this during the podcast episode, and says that, yeah, this actually is a recent photo. We kind of did the analysis, right, on Karma's hairline and everything. Well, not Karma's hairline, but like the way that he had his hair here compared to at last year's World Championship. And yeah, the feeling is that, yeah, the boys are back. These are the old graphics from last year, but they're running them back again. They spliced a couple of things together, and yeah, the boys, look, in this, they don't look like they hate each other, right? They look like they're having a good time, but of course, it's never that easy when your team is currently in a serious trouble. But of course, they'll release this, I imagine, in the coming days. It's going to be interesting to watch, to say the very least. But of course, it wasn't going to plan. OpTic last night played Thieves. It was an absolute disaster class. And Scump's given his thoughts on this now for some time. I think that Scump's perspective has been interesting to watch how things have developed. Because when it was first looking not great for OpTic, Scump understandably was a little bit reserved with his opinions, even if he felt and thought a certain way. Scump often doesn't want to say maybe what he thinks always, because if he's like, wow, you know, this guy's getting slammed or something, not even just on OpTic, but on other teams as well, people are going to run with Scump's opinion because it's Scump at the end of the day, the king. Especially when Scump's probably watching OpTic's play and thinking, like, if I subbed in, things would be going a little bit better. And that's kind of remarkable to think about, but the fact that Scump is now looking at the team and not afraid to call them out or maybe call out what he perceives as excuses, I think is pretty indicative of where the team currently lie, really. And of course, yesterday the scoreboard speaks for itself. It's kind of crazy to think that HyDra and Scrappy, they've had incredible stages so far, and like they just get a layup to just continue farming some insane numbers. Kenny had a 0.3. It actually ended up as a 0.32, which is not the worst KD in the history of Call of Duty, but you know, it's definitely the worst in the history of the Call of Duty League in the last 5 to 6 years. I mean, you guys might remember that series that OpTic played against FaZe in Cold War, when there was the server cheese, when I think they played on an Atlanta server and there was some drama about it, and Envoy and Formal both had like a 0.5. And that was considered like some sort of doomsday moment for OpTic, right? That they'd lost to FaZe, they'd got slammed hard. 2 of their guys had a 0.5, but there was some server-related stuff that was kind of compensating for it, but OpTic was still getting roasted. Fast forward a couple of years, you've got a situation like this where the red carpets are just coming out every single series. So, you know, I mean, the numbers speak for themselves, really. After that performance, he's currently sitting on a 0.71 KD in Stage 2, which passes King of Body as the 3rd worst qualifier KD in history. 1 more match to play. If you include the minor, it actually goes down even worse. If you just include the qualifiers, he has a 0.63. So, you know, there's a question on how, like, Brian Stats is going to track this, really, because does the minor count in the qualifier stage? I mean, kind of, but it's kind of also a standalone tournament, because technically minor 2 had nothing to do with the stage 2, right? Because it didn't count for qualifying towards the major itself. It was a standalone tournament set by the seeding at the end of major 1. So technically, apart from being called minor 2, it actually had nothing to do with minor 2. It wasn't set, or major 2. It wasn't set because of the results. And it doesn't affect the results anyway, it just affects champs. So I think you could make the argument that when you're tracking numbers for this stage, you just exclude the minor, and you go on some of the other numbers. I mean, regardless, it's not great. And I saw some other crazy stats going around that over the last few series, OpTic have been outslayed by, I mean, 250 kills across the team in their last, like, few qualifier games. So, like, obviously nobody's going to be happy about this. This is what Scump has to say, because over the last few days, there's been talk from Shotzzy that, like, their practice is maybe getting better, but Scump is fed up of talking about stuff like this when the team is in this bad of a slump.
I will say this: the practice has actually been going a lot better, and I know the matches say otherwise. Because holy fucking shit. Let's say before this week started, bro, I'll admit, holy fucking shit, the scrims were horrendous. The scrims were literally dog. But I genuinely, this week was our best week. I'm being dead ass. Believe it or not, I'm like not even trolling. Played FaZe. I think it was 2-3 map count and HPs. Played LA Thieves. I'm pretty sure it was 2-3 in HPs as well. Like
Carolina, a top 3 team.
Oh my fucking goodness, man! I am just genuinely at a loss for words. I do not understand it. What the fuck? Everyone's like, we're getting better. We're getting better.
We're not getting better.
We're not getting better, bro. It's just week in, week out. Same
At least not in the
things.
matches. I mean, practice could be going well for all we know, but if it's not translating,
We're
it doesn't
talking
really matter.
about practice.
Doesn't matter.
Fuck the practice. Got to get results. Not getting any. I'm going to cry myself to sleep tonight for the 6th time in a row this stage. Not going to admit that.
They'll get early control.
Yeah, that was only 2 maps,
I love the
by the way,
colors
chat.
on the
I know.
This is beautiful. Last time when we had Carolina and Cloud9, it was too much for me, Joe. This is perfect.
No, it is. And I mean, listen, Miami early on in this, you look at stage 2, you're 0-2 on this Carolina map, 1 and 2. So early in this series, there are some openings while our point is much better. for Miami Heretics. A good
No
start
way,
here.
that's
They
right.
flipped the spawns for P2 as well. You're going to get 30 seconds.
There you go, Keith.
Well,
You know what I'm
Rangers cutting
talking
off the
about.
reinforcement, so this is as good as it gets when you talk about a break off.
Yeah,
It's out of their
he's had some turnout
minds,
moments in
dude.
our
Are they
part.
out of their minds?
This is insane. I don't know. I don't know what else we're gonna say against this team. I mean, they're literally getting farmed and disrespected by the entire league right now. Crazy. It's crazy for me to see. Just because, like, I mean, I've been in that position where I've been farming OpTic, but I've never witnessed like a whole league do it. So it is insane to watch.
You're not a real person, bro. I'm sorry.
I don't know how
You're
much
actually
longer this is
unreal.
going to go on before these guys make a change. I thought they should have made a change last weekend, the weekend before that. I'm mind blown that they're truly sticking it out to the major. It's going to be one of the most awkward ring ceremonies ever, especially because they're doing it before the tournament even begins. Like, imagine going into a ring ceremony where you're
It's crazy how easy it's become for Aches as well, just to clown on them, because the last couple of seasons, Aches has been trying to find gaps and where he can talk his trash, but this season, Aches is probably almost finding it boring, because he doesn't have to find an angle, it's just the angle is given to him every single time. So, look, Scump's clearly getting frustrated. The clip as well of when the guys found out, or like people were posting it in the chat clearly, that Kenny had a 0.3, and they were like, surely not. Surely that can't be possible. They didn't really want to talk about it, but, you know, that turns out that actually was true. What's happened there, I simply don't understand. Like, I actually can't really put two and two together. And I'm still hoping that there's a bright future ahead of all of these players. But I think the other concerning thing that I see with OpTic right now is I'm not really sure what the path is back to the top. Because, okay, let's say they make a two-man change to this team. Maybe they keep Shotzzy and Dashy. They try and figure out something that they're going to do with this roster from there. Let's say they make that work. What's the path back to the top? Where are you getting the talent from? How are you forming a team that's capable of beating FaZe and Thieves? That to me seems like a real challenge, and I don't like. This is why I guess they brought this roster back with Predator, because they thought maybe with Hook they weren't going to be capable on LAN of making it right back to the top. But now it's got substantially worse, and I just think for OpTic it's a tricky situation to even imagine how they get to a point where they can compete properly with FaZe and Thieves again. Like, where do they go to make that happen? And how do they make sure that Shotzzy stays with them and builds again with OpTic rather than just jumping ship, which is not an impossibility in my opinion. So intrigued to your thoughts in the comments. These are the matches of today. So OpTic, of course, play Gentlemates tomorrow. We'll get into that, of course, tomorrow and maybe tonight, depending on what happens. But yeah, 4 games today. So Miami play Boston, Thieves play Minnesota Rocker, Vegas play Carolina or Ravens, then it's Gentlemates versus FaZe. This is going to be interesting to see if Gentlemates can do anything, because if they play well against FaZe, OpTic going to be shaking in their boots. But look, Boston, finally a series that they should be able to win, and if they don't win that, I think it's blow it up watch. I think it's frankly blow it up watch for Miami anyway. I think they should be considering super right now. Minnesota, will see what they can do against Thieves, but, you know, Thieves could close out if they dominate this series, one of the most impressive individual stages that we have ever seen. This series isn't even worth discussing, and that's pretty much going to do it for the day. So very much intrigued to your thoughts in the comments. Hit the like button if you enjoyed. Subscribe if you're new. Take care, and I'll see you next time.